Hey everyone, this is Jake Clark from Fargo 3D Printing. Today what I'm going to be showing you is how to replace your MakerBot Replicator 2 extruder assembly that you got from Fargo 3D Printing. Before you start replacing your extruder assembly, make sure that you turn off your machine and unplug your machine from the wall. First thing you're going to do is take out these two front hex bolts with a 2.5mm hex wrench. Once you get those loose, what you'll do is you'll take those bolts out and remove the fan cover. Next, you'll move the fan off to the side and have that hanging to the left. There's two black spacers on the inside. Make sure to take those out and set those aside. You'll also remove the heat sink. Next, you'll unplug the cord from the stepper motor. Then we're going to pull the motor off the gantry system. So what we'll do is once we pull off that motor, we'll go back underneath, pull off the blower fan, take our 2.5mm hex wrench, and go underneath to take the two hex bolts off the gantry system. There's one on the left, there's one on the right. We'll take both of those out and set those aside. What we'll do then is go back to the back side of the Replicator 2. If there's a zip tie at the top, make sure to cut that off. What you'll do is take out the cord mesh from its holder, remove the head from the gantry system, and set that aside. So now that we got the head sitting off to the side, what we're going to do is take off these two Phillips screws on the blower duct. So once we get these two screws off, what we're going to do is take off the plastic blower duct, and then we'll remove the blower fan. There may be a zip tie at the top here, so make sure to cut that off if there is one. We'll pull all those cords off to the side. We'll go in with our 2.5mm hex wrench again and take off the two bolts that hold the bar mount assembly onto the plastic piece. So once we remove those two screws, we'll take the bar mount assembly off, we'll cut the ceramic insulation tape off so that we can actually get at the set screw for the heater cartridge. Once you've loosened the set screw, make sure you unplug the heater cartridge cord and remove that heater cartridge. Next, you're going to take off the nut on top of the bar mount assembly. Now this can be rather tight sometimes, so in this instance I had to use two crescent wrenches to get it off. Hopefully your guys' isn't as tight as that. If it is, just make sure that you use caution so that you don't break anything. So if you do need to use two crescent wrenches, make sure you put one on the bar mount assembly, one on the nut, and then push away from one another to get that nut off. Once we get the nut off, then we can take the aluminum bar mount piece and pull that off the barrier tube. So what I had to do here was the bar mount piece was not coming off the heater block, so I held the heater block with one crescent wrench, turned the bar mount assembly with the other one, and was able to get that released. So we'll spin that off there. What we'll do next is take the thermistor off the heater block with a crescent wrench. Make sure you don't bend the black covering, as that could damage the thermistor. Once you get that heater block removed, you can set that aside and you'll take out your new Fargo 3D Printing extruder assembly. What I'm doing here is I'm actually screwing the thermistor onto the right side of the heater block assembly, and then the heater cartridge will go on the left side. We will take our hex wrench, our smallest hex wrench, we'll unscrew the set screw, make sure that that's flush with the bottom. Take our heater cartridge and push that back in there. Make sure that the cord is facing the correct way. It should be facing to your right or towards the thermistor and kind of a little bit at an angle up. Make sure that's seated all the way forward, then we'll screw down the set screw to lock that in place. Make sure you don't over tighten, otherwise you'll strip out the screw. Next, what we'll do is we'll take one of the nuts that we took off. We'll screw that all the way down into the open part of the threads. Next, we'll take our bar mount piece, and then you'll notice that there's two different sides to it. There's one side that has 4 holes, and then the other side that only has 2 holes. Make sure that the 4 holes are facing down, as that ensures that you'll be able to screw it back down onto the gantry system. If you put this on backwards, you'll actually have to retake everything off and put it back on there. You'll notice that there's 2 threaded holes on the top. Make sure that's on the right side of the heater cartridge so that when you put the plastic piece back on, everything aligns properly. What you'll have to do is you'll have to make sure that when you screw the bar mount assembly all the way down to the nut, that those 2 threaded holes are to the right side again. We'll take the other nut, we'll actually put that back on the top of the bar mount assembly. Make sure the bar mount piece is parallel to the heater block piece, and make sure that the nut on the bottom is tight. So the nut on the top is going to be flush with the thermal barrier tube. Make sure you tighten that down. You can double check before you assemble everything by putting the motor on there, making sure that there's enough clearance here between the nut and the plastic piece so that there's no interference. What we'll do here is we'll put the plastic piece back onto the side. Make sure that the overhang is over the bar mount assembly. Make sure that the fan's still through there. What we're going to do is take the heater cartridge cord. We're going to put that around the outside of the plastic piece. Then we'll take our 2 hex nuts, screw those back through the plastic piece back onto that bar mount assembly. Next, what we'll do is we'll put the ceramic insulation tape around the heater block. You can actually follow one of our other videos for installing the ceramic insulation tape. Once we got all the cords situated, we'll put the blower fan back on. We'll put those Phillips screws and screw those back to the plastic piece. We'll then put the plastic blower duct back onto the blower fan and screw those down. Make sure that the heater cartridge cord is out of the way. You'll put the stepper motor back on. Then you'll put the heatsink on top of that. You'll put the spacers in. On top of the spacers, you'll put the fan, and then you'll put the fan guard on top of that, and you'll screw that entire assembly down. Once you screwed those down, put the cord back into the stepper motor. Then you have all these loose cords kind of laying around, so what we're going to do is we're going to zip tie the mesh wiring harness down to the little plastic upright. Once we zip tied down the cable harness, what we're going to do now is go to the back of the machine and put the cable mesh back into its holders, and then zip tie the top down as well. Once we've zip tied down the cable harness in the back, we'll put our screws back into the bar mount assembly, we'll put the blower duct fan back in, and then we'll plug in the machine and start 3D printing again. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you put those down below. Otherwise, for Fargo 3D Printing, this is Jake Clark. Make sure you get printing, stay printing, and change the world.